So this is part 2 of a 2-part series on bad habits.
Well, as you say, old habits die hard. It's
an old habit. I spend my life trying not to be careless.
Our propensity to cave into an unsavory habit is stimulated by a chemical released in our brains called dopamine as a result of our fight or flight instinct. In a nutshell, dopamine causes you to crave a reward. It's not a good feeling, but rather an anxious and unsettled feeling that your brain believes will be alleviated if you could just get that reward. And many times, that reward is no good for us, and not nearly as satisfying as our dopamine response would lead us to believe. So how do we resist this urge, this impulse to act in a way that negatively affects our lives? When you start to feel a craving for something, pause. Take a moment to really sit with that sensation. Is it logical? If I fulfilled this desire, would it be in line with my goals? Then close your eyes, I like to close my eyes, and think about what it feels like. Where in your body do you feel the sensation? Focus on that sensation and then try to identify what it feels like. It doesn't feel good, we know that. That's the feeling of anxiety. With this knowledge, you can start to work on calming it down in several ways. First, think about breathing through it. I like to visualize actually forcing the air through the pressure of the anxiety. Wherever I feel it physically in the body, just imagining it breaking up and dissolving into little pieces in my breath as I breathe out. And then with each new breath, not violent or rushed, I breathe in, and then I spend more time on the exhale. Breathing out activates your parasympathetic nervous system, or the brake to your stress response. It's not magic, it's science. Waiting for 20 minutes to act on a craving or drinking a large glass of water also helps. Have you ever noticed that a craving comes on with full power and force, but then you notice later that the craving's gone away? Just give it time. It squeezes in a break between the initial urge and the action, which gives time for your body to do a check-in before acting on your primal desire. So the more time that you practice this, to take time to notice the sensation of a craving, the more you're going to notice all the cues around you. So get in the habit of searching for these cues all around your life. It'll make it easier to catch them and isolate them, and then dissuade them and their power on you when you're faced with a trigger that interferes with your goals. Psychology professor Daniel Wegner did an experiment. Participants were told that they could think about absolutely anything, but not white bears. And they discovered that people could not stop thinking about white bears. It's this thing called the ironic rebound effect. The second you decide to push something out of your brain, all you're gonna do is think about it, and think about it like crazy. If you keep trying to push it away, all your body's gonna do is rebound. So spend time on it. Think about it. All right, so here are the most common ways that people choose to alleviate stress. It turns out these suckers actually, quite literally, make things worse. But what, pray tell, actually works to alleviate stress? These strategies, unlike the dopamine-inducing activities, actually release real mood-enhancing chemicals like serotonin and oxytocin. They stop the stress response from the brain and they help you relax. They're not going to make you excited, but they'll actually make you happy. One strategy is record a voice memo of yourself to remind you of how happy you actually feel when you choose a positive choice instead of a dopamine-inducing activity. Make your chosen productive stress relievers obvious and attainable in your environment. How about you pick a go-to happy song that plays during a particular time of day that you identify generates the most stress in you and puts you at risk of giving into a craving? Or maybe you call or text a friend during that window to keep you company. Now, the greatest strategy would be just to set the temptation out of sight and mind. But if you can't, set positive triggers and cues right next to that temptation so you're reminded that you have a choice. Maybe it's a picture of a car you're saving up for, or the beach vacation you're gonna take. Imagine your future self. Delay discounting is a real problem. Delayed discounting is what economists call the decreased desirability of reward the longer it takes to achieve it. Studies have watched participants pick the quick fix over the long term, often greater reward. When faced with temptation, consider this. Am I willing to completely give up my long-term reward for this immediate gratification? Is the trade-off worth it? Imagine yourself years from now, if you keep up with the same bad habits. How do you look? How do you feel? Okay, well now envision your life if you didn't have those same habits. What would your day look like? How would you look and how would you feel? How would your life be more satisfying or fulfilling? Now get comfortable with the image of that self, with the look and the feel, the life routine, the way you walk, the way you sip your tea or you laugh. Think about this future self and what it would be like to live without these habits. Now these ideas may sound totally insane, but I encourage you to try a couple of these tips. I hope that you'll also check out the deep dive that I did on why we get those cravings, as well as my video on building good habits. Thank you for spending time with me today. If you'd like to explore more ways to improve your quality of life and happiness through mindset, habits, and health, please like and subscribe. Be well.